English writing skills, punctuation marks, Lesson 5. In this lesson, we'll review how we write dates with dashes, slashes, and apostrophes, and which formats are standard in American English. We'll also review how we write the time of day with a colon. And we'll talk about writing numbers. When do we use words? When do we use numerals?
Hello everyone, this is Lesson 5. Do you know when I posted the first lesson of this series? I posted it on Sunday, April 28th, 2013. How would I write that date in this sentence? Do you know? What's standard in American English? Jennifer posted the first lesson of this series on, we'll start with the day of the week, Sunday, comma, the month, April, the day, 28th, we need another comma, and then the year, 2013. Some people ask, do you need to write the TH for 28th? No. Those little letters in ordinal numbers like the RD in 23rd or the ST in 21st do not need to be written in the date in this format. It's not necessary. We understand how to read the date. We read with ordinal numbers, but it's not necessary to write those little letters. It could be written, however, those little letters could be written if we reverse the number and the month. For example, on the 28th of April. This is not as common. I think it's more typical of more formal English. In everyday writing, why use more words if you don't have to? In fact, to be even quicker, we would simply use numerals when we write. So leaving out Sunday, we could say April 28th, 2013. And in the United States, we like dashes or, do you know? Dashes or slashes. Okay. Periods are gaining some use, but it's still not what I would consider a standard pattern. So when you write a date with numerals only, stick to slashes or dashes. And remember, the pattern in the US is to use the month, day, and then the year. Let's add the time of day. I remember that the first video was posted exactly at 11:04 a.m. How do I write that? (11:04 a.m.). Of course, we read 04, but we know that is a number, not a letter. AM stands for the morning hours. PM refers to afternoon and evening hours. Remember that in the US, we don't usually have that 24-hour clock. We use AM and PM. AM can be written with lowercase letters and periods, or uppercase letters and no periods. The same pattern holds true for PM. Let's say that the video had been posted exactly at 11 o'clock. Would I need to write 00? No, it's not really necessary. If it had been posted exactly at 11 o'clock, right on the hour, I could just write 11 a.m. Okay. Would you ever need to write out 11 as a word? Perhaps in a more formal situation and you were using o'clock, then it would be more standard, more appropriate to write 11 as a word, o'clock, 11 o'clock. Hopefully, you're making use of the exercises on my website. They give additional practice with all of these punctuation patterns. Some of the exercises refer to TV shows made in the 1960s and 70s. How would I write those decades in this sentence? Do you know? There are a couple different patterns. Let's use this one first. Let's use numbers. In the 1960s, does that look good? Am I missing anything? No, I don't need an apostrophe here. Just 1960 and then add S. 1960s and 70s. Does that look okay? Well, here I left out the 19, so I will use an apostrophe to show that I left out the first two numbers, the 1960s and 70s. Okay, this is the pattern for a reference to any decade. The 1960s, the 1970s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. By the way, I love the 80s, but that's probably showing my age because some of you were probably not even born in the 80s, but a lot of music that I listen to happens to be from that decade. Okay, could we use words? Yes. Okay. If we say 60s and 70s, it's like this shorthand, this abbreviation for the 70s. It would assume that everyone understands which decade or which century we're referring to. They didn't have TV shows in the 1800s, so of course we're talking about the 1970s, the 1960s. So you could write out the words, you could use numbers. You only need the apostrophe if you leave out the first two numbers. Okay?
This is the end of part 1. Please go on to the next part of this lesson. Please visit my website today at www.englishwithjennifer.com. You'll find study tips, interactive exercises, vocabulary videos, and more.